Fighting against the cage is a sport in itself. Given the time that you might spend in there, it is crucial for you to master this position. There is many ways to bring the fight to the cage. One of my favorite ways is by using a jab decoy to a double leg takedown setup. When I see that my opponent's back is close to the fence, is the perfect time for me to attack. I'm using one of my longest and fastest weapons, the jab, as a decoy and a distraction to slip underneath him and drive him as far as I can deep into the fence. The advantage of the fence here is that my opponent cannot sprawl. That allows me to lock my hands together. To finish a takedown here, I will not try to drive across of him because of the friction of his body on the fence will make me waste a lot of energy. The way I will finish a takedown is by trying to pull his leg away from the fence as I'm stepping back in one motion. I throw a long jab as a distraction, slide under, change my level, connect my hand together, and pull my opponent away from the fence. I slide under, change level, use the bounce of the fence to pull my opponent and finish the takedown. When I get my opponent's back near the fence and I try to go for my double leg takedown setup, sometimes when I'm fighting a more experienced fighter, he does a perfect defense reaction. I got my opponent's back near the fence, so I'm using a jab as a decoy. But when I get in, he turned his entire body towards my head and get himself into a split squat. His feet are parallel to the line of the cage, which makes it impossible for me to lock a double leg takedown behind his knees. However, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step behind his leg and use a kosotogeki. Throw my jab, I slip under. When I try to connect my hand, it's impossible. My opponent spread his leg. Then I step behind his leg and I pull him in a circular motion until he falls. I stay connected to his lower body with my upper body. When I get my opponent's back near the fence and I try to go for my double leg, sometimes he blocks me with a split stance position. Then I go for a kosotogeki, but sometimes my opponent does not let me get the kosotogeki. I'm using my jab as a decoy. I'm trying to get for my double leg, but he defends with a split squat. I switch to kosoto, but he shifts his weight on his lead leg. No problem. I go from double leg to single leg. And I'm gonna try to step my leg in and use the rebound of the fence to put him on my hips. I lift him by the center line. And once I get him there, I turn towards the middle of the fence because I don't want to drop him in the fence. I want to drop and slam him on the floor with more impact. And then I take away his base for not him to put his leg to the floor. Jab, change level. I go for my double leg. I can't lock my hand together. Then I go for my kosoto and it doesn't work either. I change my grip. I step inside to lift him by the center line. I turn my opponent away from the fence. Then when I drop him down, I take away his base with my leg. Sometime when I get my opponent's back near the fence, I'm shooting to my double. Double doesn't work. Switching to kosoto. Kosoto doesn't work. And I lift him with the crotch lift. And when I'm about to put him down, he does not react the way I want. He accepts the fall. When you accept the fall, you have to take advantage of it and slam him to the floor. and doing it in a very hard fashion. I will show you how. So I'm setting it up with a jab, going to double leg, but he defended very well. Going to Kosoto, Kosoto doesn't work. I decide to lift him with the crotch lift. I turn him away from the fence, but now he doesn't try to put his leg down. He accepts the fall and wants to go to his guard. When he does so, no problem. I'm gonna use a technique we use, the bar cigar. I lift my leg and tap the knee to slam him as hard as I can to the floor. Throw my jab, slip under for my double leg. I can't lock my grip. Then I decide to go for Kosoto, and it doesn't work either. I change my grip to a single leg. I crotch. I step in and I lift him using the rebound of the fence. Then I table his body by lifting my leg and swinging my arm until he falls. I table his body, lifting my leg and swing my arm for the slam. When I get my opponent's back near the fence and I try to get in with my double leg takedown setup, sometimes when I try to lift him with the crotch lift, he defends very well. So when I get my opponent's back near the fence, I'm using a jab as a decoy to get in to his leg. Double leg doesn't work, so I'm switching to single leg, try to crotch lift, but he's smart. He grabbed my wrist and dismount. When he dismount, no problem, because he has a good control on my wrist, I'm using his control to my advantage. Look, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna pull him on top of me and slide in with another double leg, but on the knees this time. Then I'm gonna immediately lock my hands together behind his knees and stand back up. I don't wanna stay on my knees. When it's time to put him down, in one motion, I'm gonna pull his leg away from the fence and step back. Use my jab as a distraction. I get into my double. It doesn't work. So I change my grip for a single leg. I try to lift him by the center line, and he stepped back. I use his grip and the swing of my arm to reshoot on him very deep. Lock my hands in place together. I use the momentum to pull him away from the fence. When I get my opponent's back close to the fence and I'm shooting in with my double leg and it doesn't work, I'm switching to single leg. Sometimes when I want to crotch lift him, it doesn't work because of the position of my grip. No problem. There is a lot of options that I can do, and I will show you some of my favorites. I'm getting in with the jab decoy. Double leg doesn't work. I'm switching to single leg. And as you see, it won't work because my grip is not located in his center line. When I want to lift him with a crotch lift, it has to be in the center. Now it's a little bit away from it. No problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a single leg. So I'm stepping back and shrug my shoulder, collect the leg. The stiffer my opponent is in this position, the better it is for me. Because I can use a technique we call the chest pressure. I'm going to take a small step to the inside and a big step to the outside as I'm putting as much pressure as I can on his quad in the same time. I jab and shoot for my double leg. It doesn't work. I change my grip. I grab the single leg and he defends very well. I step across my opponent and my other step behind my heel and I apply chest pressure. When I get my opponent back close to the fence and I shoot for a double leg and I switch to a single and try to go for a chest pressure, sometimes it doesn't work. So the best way to take down my opponent then is to collect the second leg. He cannot stand up if I'm controlling both legs. I'm using a jab decoy to get in. To double leg, it doesn't work. I'm switching to single leg here. And when I try to do the chest pressure, you'll see that Usain is defending it perfectly by putting his leg outside. Then I'm forced to go for my double leg. Use my jab as a decoy. I shoot in. Then I change my grip, go for a single leg. Chest pressure doesn't work. My opponent put his leg outside. That gives me the opportunity to go for my double leg takedown, driving forward while collecting his other leg. When I get my opponent's back near the fence and I'm shooting for that double leg and it fails, I often switch to a single leg, and I will show you another variation from that position. Jab decoy, I get in to double leg. It doesn't work because of my opponent's split stance. I'm switching to single, but now, as you can see, my grip is too far away from me to use the crotch lift. So what I do then, I'm collecting his leg as I'm stepping inside, and I try to bring my hips as close as his as possible. Now I'm gonna use a very special technique. It's a combination of grappling and striking. I will walk back and time a step and hit him with the palm of my hand directly in the ear. So I make him hop and I time him while he's in the air with the strike at the same time. Jab decoy, get in for my double, then I switch to my single leg. I step in deep inside his leg. Then I pull my opponent back, time his hop, and sweep his leg while throwing a slap hook. Now Usain has his back close to the fence, so I will try to set up my double leg takedown. But he's anticipating what I'm about to do to him. So I can't get to my double leg takedown. He has a perfect split stance squat. His feet are parallel to the line of the cage, and he also has a good underhook. So I am aware that if I try to put him down here with my double leg, I will waste a lot of energy. So what I will do is switch gear and go with a predetermined striking combo exit. I will start to bump my shoulder to create space and use the rebound of the fence to come up with a rear uppercut. I always uppercut on the same side of which my head is. Then I bump, uppercut, hook, cross. And as I'm doing so, he's gonna square up to me because he wants to protect himself from the striking. That will allow me to reshoot on him and lock my hands behind his knees. Then what I want to do to put him down is to pull his legs away from the fence and step back in one motion. I throw a long jab as a decoy. I get in, but my opponent defends very well with an underhook. I come up with an uppercut, hook, straight, to reshoot back again, lock my hands, and use the momentum and the rebound of the fence to pull him away. Once again, I got my opponent's back close to the fence, and when I decide to shoot on him, he's in an open stance, and he's got a lot more experience and a better wrestling and grappling pedigree than me. So there is no way I can put him down. What I do is I switch to striking. I use striking as a diversion to go back into grappling. Now I got Hussein into an open stance position. When I shoot my double leg, I always try to shoot with my head outside. Not that it cannot be done with my head inside, but it's less economical. And on top of that, it's more risk because Hussein can time me with a knee, can also time me with an uppercut, and he's already halfway into a sprawl. So I use a jab as a decoy, and when I see that I'm in a position that there is no way I can finish my double leg, I will switch to striking with a predetermined combos. As you will see, I always start with the uppercut on the way up from the same side of which my head is. In this case, is my lead uppercut. Shrug my shoulder, uppercut on the way out, cross, hook, finish with the cross and dive back into the takedown as he square up to me. Long jab to double leg. My opponent defends very well and has an underhook. I bump my shoulder to create space for my combo to reshoot again, lock my hands together, and pull my opponent away from the fence. I use the rebound of the fence and the momentum to pull him away and put him down. The next technique I'm about to show you is a technique that Matt used on me when he scored his first takedown in the first fight we had with each other. It's also a technique that I use against Dan Hardy. So when you see that your opponent's back is close to the fence and you decide to shoot for a double leg, often your opponent will get into a strong defense split stance position. Then it forces you to switch to single leg. Once you get the single leg, sometimes it's not that easy. Your opponent is defending it very well. I will show you one option that you can have in this situation. So I got Hussein here. I'm setting up my takedown with the jab decoy. Get in. It doesn't work. He has a good defense to block my double leg. I switch to single, come to collect the leg, but then he put his leg outside, which makes it very hard for me to go for any of my fundamental technique, like the chest pressure or double leg that we've seen before. No problem. I'm gonna walk back, time is up, scoop my head underneath his armpit, and use the power of my hips to slam him down. Then, when I see that his hands touch the floor, I immediately switch and climb to a body lock, putting all the pressure forward. Then I'm gonna step on his foot and bring him to the floor in a sideways pressure. Once I get him down, I want to reach for his wrist to have total control over his posture. Cut the arm, reach for the wrist, and pin his shoulder down to prevent him from standing back up. I can step over, and I'm ready for ground and pound, taking his back or whatever I want. Jab, change level to my double leg. Then I switch my grip again to a single leg. I step to keep his leg between my leg. I time his up, and I throw my head under his armpit while lifting with the power of my hips. I switch my grip to his upper body. I step on his foot. I sprawl back to bring him down. I cut the arm and control his wrists. I step over with my shin and ready for ground and pound. Throughout all my career, I was able to put down some guys that has much better wrestling pedigree than me. And the way I did it is by having a very good transition between striking to grappling. Now I'm going to show you one particular version of it. Certain techniques works well when you're fighting against the cage, but does not work necessarily when you're fighting in the open. This next one is a good example of it. That's why we say that fighting against the cage is a sport in itself. From the clinch over-under position, so far we saw that we drag our opponent to defense, then he defend, and after we pin him. Now we're gonna do something different. We will pin our shoulder in his sternum right away because we want to use the element of surprise. And as I'm driving him, I'm gonna reach for my double leg and try to lock my hands together. It will work because Hussein will not have time to establish a good defense position. Pay attention to his leg and pay attention to his feet. He's not into a split squat and his feet are perpendicular to the line of the cage, which is the wrong thing to do if you want to defend a double leg. Now my hands are locked and it's an easy thing for me to do to pull his leg away from the fence as I'm stepping back. I shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum. I drive him to the fence by surprise, lock my hands together, and use the rebound of the fence to pull him and put him down. A great way to be successful at fighting against the cage is to use the element of surprise. That's what I'm going to show you right now. Sometimes I'm near the cage, but I'm not quite there yet. Instead of driving my opponent to the cage first, I will, before, shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum in order to tackle him to the cage. Once I'm there, I lean all my weight on him before he gets time to set himself into a good defensive position. I will scoop his leg into a ouchigari and make him fall to the ground. Shrug, change level, pin my shoulder to his sternum, drive him to the fence. Lean on the fence while pulling his leg with my leg, applying a forward pressure until he falls. When I'm in the over-under clinch position and I got my opponent's back to the fence, all my ability to create space depends on how I can kill his underhook. I will show you a great way to create space and switch to striking. So I'm with Hussein. I already drive him to the fence. He's doing a great job. To kill his underhook, I'm gonna shrug my shoulder, put it in his sternum, put my thumb in, reach, and kill his underhook here. Take control of his arm. Now I'm going with a predetermined striking combo exit. It's made of elbows and punches that will allow me after to reshoot on him. Shrug my shoulder, create space, elbow, uppercut, cross, reshoot, and then I pull his leg away from the fence as I'm stepping back. I drive my opponent to the fence. I pin my shoulder in his sternum, control his arm, release, elbow, uppercut, straight to reshoot. I use the rebound of the fence to pull him away. When I shoot, I connect my hands behind his knees and I pull him away. Sometimes you're fighting a guy who has just a much better wrestling pedigree than you, or is just a much better grappler. When you have him in the over-under clinch position against the cage, that doesn't mean you cannot put him down. Remember, the ultimate goal to put him down is to wrap your arms around his leg. If you take away his two legs, there is no way that he can stand up. And I will show you a great transition to get there. I'm with Hussein in the over-under clinch position, and when I try to flat his back to pin my shoulder in his sternum, I can't, because he's just a better grappler than me. So if I cannot beat him with grappling, I will switch to striking. I'm in a great position to go and land some knee strike in his inner thigh. That will bait him to block my knee with his arm. What I want is to reach across, trap his wrist, and trap his underhook underneath my armpit. Once I get there, I need to free my lead underhook. I will turn my pinky up, shrug my shoulder, create some space, and land an elbow strike. I try to target his eyebrow. The goal here is not to knock him out, is to create the maximum of damage. Now you can see both of his arms are trapped. When I release my grip, I right away go with an elbow strike, targeting his ear. Then that will lower him to my lead hook and into my straight. Once I have done this, I can reshoot on him, lock my hands behind his legs, pull his legs away from the fence as I'm stepping back. I drive my opponent to the fence. When I try to kill his underhook, it doesn't work. He has more experience. So I lean forward on him. I knee in his inner thigh to bait him to block my knee. Then I trap his arm. I shrug my shoulder to create space, throw a short elbow to a big elbow, lead hook, cross, reshoot using the rebound of the fence to pull him away. Very important, when I reshoot, I lock my hands together and I pull him away from the fence. I'm about to show you a striking exit from the over-under clinch position when you got your opponent's back against the fence that has been used by some of the best fighters in the world in high-level competitions. I'm in the over-under position to kill his underarm. I flat his back against the fence. I reach for his wrist, and I'm creating a frame here with my lead arm. I can't stay there for long. As soon as I get there, I'm stepping inside his leg to be able to let me spin to my elbow. I'm targeting his neck. Shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum. Trap his wrist. Then I create a frame across his neck, and I go with a spinning elbow targeting his neck. Now we just did a spinning elbow striking exit attack from a clinch over-under position. That means that our opponent will expect something coming to his head, which will leave his body wide open for something else. I'm killing my opponent's underhook, creating a frame, and I'm ready to jump back, bring my heel to my butt, and go for the jumping, spinning kick. I drive my opponent to the fence, shrug and put my shoulder in his sternum, control the arm, create a frame, and I jump backward doing my spinning back kick. One of the most important parts of fighting against the cage is the transition. I will show you how to go from an over-under clinch position to a double underhook. I'm in the over-under clinch position with Usain, which is a roughly 50-50 odds on both sides. I'm trying to push him against the fence, but he's very smart. That's what most of good fighters will do. They will sit. They will prevent me from pinning him against the fence. To counter that, I will shrug my shoulder and pin it in his sternum. That will give me enough space after to pummel my arm in, take an angle, reach for my double underhook, and connect my hips to hips. And then after, I'm in a perfect position to break his posture. So I pummel, take an angle, connect. I drive my opponent to the fence, shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum. I pummel my arm in, I stay very tight, palm-to-palm grip, and my hips is connected to his hips. Clinch over under. I try to flat him out. He sit, which is the good thing to do. Shrug, pin my shoulder in his sternum. That gives me enough space to slip my thumb in, reach his wrist, and kill his underhook. Now I'm gonna use my entire body to duck under with my head from the outside to get myself into a strong double underhook position. I drive my opponent to the fence, shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum, reach, outside duck under, and I control his body, palm to palm grip, hips to hips. Your success of fighting against the cage often depends on your transition from one position to a more dominant one. I'm going to show you how to transition from an over-under clinch position to a single leg and to a double underhook. So we have different options. From the over-under clinch position, I will successfully pin my opponent's back against the fence. And to kill his underhook, I will make a stiff arm and post it in his inner thigh. I will switch my head on the other side and post it on his chest to apply pressure to make sure he doesn't go away. Now, as you can see, I'm killing his underhook. He has no power here. And he's pinned against the fence. Now with this hand, I'm gonna reach to the leg. I put my fingers inside in his leg. Then I can switch to a single leg grip. I always keep my head high in his chest. And I can stay there and try to finish a takedown if I'm comfortable. But if I want to, I can also make another transition to double underhook. The way I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna walk back, keep always his leg in between my leg, create some space. I can reach around, connect wrist to wrist or palm to palm. Make sure I don't go too much forward because he can throw me. I always keep the pressure with my head on his chest. And after that, I bring my position hips to hips to control his posture. I drive my opponent to the fence, shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum, flat him out against the fence, use a stiff arm, change my head position, transition to a single leg head inside, pull his leg into position in between my legs, reach for his hips, connected hips to hips, and I got control of his elevation. When you're fighting against the cage and you got your opponent into a double underhook, there is a variety of technique that you can use to put him down. I will show you the Kosoto Gake from double underhook. I will get to my double underhook position by pommeling. Now you see that I'm having a good hold on his waist. My hip is connected to his hip. I don't leave any space in between my head and his body, because if I do, it's an easy thing for him to throw me. And when I'm ready to go for my Kosoto, I'm gonna pull the bottom part of his leg in a circular motion, and I'm gonna try to break his posture with my grip at the same time and try to look in the direction where I'm going. I shrug and put my shoulder in my opponent's sternum, drive him to the fence, pummel my arm in for double underhook control. Then I step behind his leg and pull his leg with my leg into the ground. When I got my opponent's back against the fence and I'm able to get double underhook on him, I can step in and go with ouchigari. Ouchigari, it's a hook that comes from the inside. Ouchigari against the fence is a technique that normally works best when you're fighting an opponent who is taller than you. But that doesn't mean it cannot work if you're fighting someone smaller. I'm going to get into pommeling to my double underhook position. Here, I'm taking a good control. I'm stepping inside with my leg because ouchigari means hooking from the inside. So I'm stepping in deep, connecting my hips to his hips, and I'm going to force my opponent to take a step by pulling him. And in the same time, I'm going to sweep his leg. And I try to sweep his leg in the lowest part as possible. I shrug and I pin my shoulder in my opponent's sternum. I pummel into a double underhook. Then I step deep in between his leg. I pull him in a circular way while sweeping his leg using the momentum. I pull him and sweep his leg while he's in movement. In mixed martial art, it is crucial to have a predetermined combo setup, whether it is in striking with jab cross or grappling to go for one position to another. In order to be successful, you need that. Because if something doesn't work, you don't have time to think. You need to have an immediate answer. Now from the double underhook position, I will slam my opponent to the floor, but from a Nuchimata attempt. This is a more advanced move, guys. Pay attention to my hips. I will try to push my hips underneath my opponent's hips and sweep his leg in the same time as he's stepping. I'm killing his underhook, duck under the arm, but I can't break his posture once I'm in double underhook position. So I'm going for a Nuchimata. He will resist, and as he's stepping, pay attention to my hips and my foot sweep. Shrug and pin my shoulder in my opponent's sternum, drive him to the fence, reach back to kill his underhook, outside duck under into a double underhook control. I try to throw him forward and I use the momentum and sweep him to the ground with my leg and the power of my hips. I fake to throw him forward, then I use the timing to sweep his leg. Sometimes when I get myself into a double underhook position with my opponent's back against the fence, I need a striking combo exit. I'm going to show you a good one. I'm in a good double underhook position, but my goal is to exit with a predetermined power striking combos. So I will pummel my arms in, the palm is facing me, and connect my hands together, either palm to palm or wrist to wrist. I keep my elbow tight and my head connected and pinned on his neck. It is almost impossible for Hussein to get out. He can't pummel his arm in or trying to escape with his arm out. From there, I'm going to create space by putting my knees on his knees. Then I have enough space to cause a lot of damage with my knee strike. I can repummel on top of his head, add my hand on top of it, step back as I'm putting him off balance. He is right now in a kind of an armbar. His head is low, so I can knee him to the face. As I'm releasing him, go to a spike elbow strike that will lower him into my lead hook. And as he's getting away and trying to stand up, into a killing high kick. Every strike that I'm landing is made to lower my opponent into the following one. I got a solid double underhook position. Then I get to a collar tie, elbows tight. My head is in position. I step back, knees to knees. Then I use two knee strike to the body. Then I pull him by the head to another knee. I let him go with a short elbow and with my predetermined striking combo exit. When I got my opponent's back against the fence and I'm able to get into a double underhook and switch to a collar tie. Collar tie is a great position to strike, of course, but it's also a good opportunity to take your opponent's back. I got my opponent in a good double underhook position, but I will switch to collar tie. I pummel my arms in. My palm is facing me. I connect palm to palm or wrist to wrist. My head is tucked in his neck. I'm creating space. I always keep my elbow tight. That allows me to control his posture to knee him here. When I'm ready, I'm gonna shuffle my leg and duck under his arm. And I switch to a back control. Both of my hands are connected palm to palm or wrist to wrist. My head is glued to his back, so it's impossible for him to turn and face me. Once I'm there to put him down, I'm gonna take an angle, table one of his leg, and put my knee behind his knee. And I will look in the direction in which I desire to put him down. And I'm gonna pull him towards that direction. I got double underhook control. I switch to a collar tie. Elbows tight, knee in position. I go with my knee strike, but my opponent is very stiff. I duck under his arm to take his back. When I take the control of his back, he's leaning towards the fence. I put my knee behind his knee and I pull him in a circular motion until he falls to the ground. Fighting against the cage, it's a sport in itself. Now I'm gonna show you a transition from an over-under clinch position going to a single leg into a double underhook, into taking my opponent's back, into a takedown, and to a back control. I'm killing his underhook, and I go for a single leg. Then I transition to a double underhook position, and I'm very deep in it. I can easily break his posture, but I decide to take his back with a duck under here. When I take his back, it is very important for me to glue my head to his back so it prevents him to try to face me. Then I'm gonna apply a forward pressure and trip his leg in the same time. When I trip his leg, I try to reach for the lowest part of his leg. Once he hit the ground, of course, he wants to try to stand back up. I'm gonna use stiff arm and put my hand in his inner thigh and apply a forward pressure at the same time that will prevent him from standing back up when he tries. So both of my arms are stiff and I apply a forward pressure. Of course, he's gonna try to use the fence, but he has to carry all his weight and all my weight on his arm, which is a very tough thing to do, and you spend a lot of energy here. Then I'm gonna lock my hands together, step on his foot, and drag him one more time to the floor. I'm gonna chop his base, reach for the wrist, and pin his shoulder. Step over and get ready to do real damage. Shrug and pin my shoulder, drive my opponent flat to the cage. Stiff arm to switch into a single leg control position. His leg is between my leg. I reach for his hips. I connect hip to hips. I duck under to control the back. Then my opponent lean on the fence. I use my leg to trip his leg. Once he's on the floor, I keep a forward pressure with my hand in his inner thigh. I change my grip to his upper body. I step on his foot, drag him down once more. Cut his arm, control the wrist, step my shin over, and ready for ground and pound. When I'm fighting against the fence and I'm able to work my way to a position that I get my opponent's back, and he's standing up against the fence and only thinking about defending the takedown, I can take advantage of this and exit with a very powerful striking combo. Now I'm going to show you how I go from an over-under clinch position to a double underhook, to the back of my opponent, into a predetermined striking combo exit. I'm pummeling my way into a solid double underhook, and I shrug him to take us back. As I'm threatening the takedown, I'm gonna go for the striking. And not only any kinds of striking, every strike that I will land is predetermined and made and designed specifically to lure him into my next strike. So I'm gonna hit him on the temple. Then he faces me with my lead hook into my high kick as he's trying to getting away from me. I shrug and pin my shoulder in his sternum, drive him to the fence, pummel into a double underhook, shrug and duck under to take his back. I decide to let him go with a big hook on his temple that make him turn into my hook, following with my predetermined striking combo exit.